Welcome to the Esports Report. This is your host, Will Nix, and his co-host, Ashley Hodge. Back to the Esports Report. We're talking about Georgia High School Esports today. And Ashley, tell me about your experience getting esports started.
All right. Well, in 2017, I was in a very large school in South Georgia, and our AD got an email about having esports as an official sport. And I can tell you that everybody kind of treated it like it was a joke, like video games as a sport. Like, what is that? What are people thinking? I was very excited because I was a gamer in the 90s and I was an amateur competitive esports player with Call of Duty and League of Legends. So I jumped all over that. So I applied. I actually had to go in front of our Board of Education and justify not only why I was good for the position, but why we should even have it to begin with, which I really was not prepared for. I just thought I was interviewing to be a coach. Wow. And I think what really got them to see esports as valid is I told them about the money that I personally had won that helped me go to college. And then I also told them there's a large group of students who just don't participate in extracurricular activities, for a variety of reasons. Maybe physically they can't, or just, circumstances like that. So esports really helped like touch or reach those kids that might not be involved in any kind of school sport or community otherwise. So I think that was like a really big push that I did. And I've been doing it ever since.
That's fascinating. It was very different at my school. I'm still at the same school there, and North Georgia Mountain School there. But it was more of our AD sent out all the new listings that year for new sports that were coming on board. Like bowling was coming, and bass fishing was on its way. And then there was esports. And the current person who was going to probably do it had just left, so I took over a computer science position. And they were like, well, would you like to do it? I'm like, I'll try it. I've never played League of Legends at the time. I've played now. I have a little more experience with it. And that was the only sport being offered at the time. And it was very much go do it. I wasn't being paid. It was very much a volunteer position. I gave it a try and got to know a few people at PlayVS because I immediately got in touch with them because that's what I do. And a shout out to our boy Adrian, who got us all involved with this. He really did. Who's no longer with PlayVS, not in a bad way or anything wrong with that, but he's no longer with PlayVS, but really was my right-hand person for getting us started.
Mm-hmm. I do miss Adrian.
He bought my group pizzas for the end of the year, for an end-of-the-year party. And it wasn't cheap. He went out and got us some good pizzas. It wasn't like some Little Caesars here.
It was that premium pizza.
It was a premium pizza. We went and got some. It's I Heart New York. So, that was... it was just something new, and guys, we all had a good time. And what really appealed for me was that this was a sport for anybody. This wasn't, you had to have trained. Well, I'll get into that in a minute. You didn't have to really have training for years. You didn't have to have, all this expensive equipment at first, but you did have to have some basics. And anyone could play, guys, girls, whatever. And they had a good variety of games coming out in the future.
Hey guys, yeah. So talking about Rocket League, when it was added, it was kind of fun, game changing for me, and I hate to use that term because it's so bad for esports, game changing. But we kept getting new games, and the one that really shocked me that because it didn't do well was Smite. Because to me it was the newer version of League of Legends, and I'm not taking off any way from League of Legends. It was just League of Legends was an older game. It's been around since 2008,
2009, I think is when it came out. So it's like over 10 years old.
Right. And so here it is, an older game. I thought, okay, Smite, it's the newer game. It's going to have a little bit more fan base. I had a really hard time getting anybody for Smite.
Yeah, none of my kids really wanted to play Smite either. And that's probably because I was also a little biased. I'm like, listen, if you're going to play a MOBA, it might as well be League of Legends because that's where the scholarships are. That's where the money is.
Now, there was a third game. There was another game that didn't quite make. It was going to launch, and it was another MOBA. Do you remember what that game was?
I really don't.
No one does.
We got so many games.
Well, it was one based out of. I remember it was based out of Atlanta, and it was supposed to be the next big thing, and then the company collapsed all of a sudden, and they had it and they had to yank it, and we would see this with PlayVS in the future. Because I mean, PlayVS was the wild wild west of esports at the beginning. Let's just be honest. And PlayVS did provide some organization, but at the same time, you can only organize gamers so much.
I think it's like that in the gaming industry in general, based off my
Right.
conversations with people on the committees. It does seem like it's still like the Wild West. Like it's just bizarre. Like it's based on luck if you make it or not at this point.
Right. And I think a lot of it is that when you're trying to pursue the monetized side of it, you're trying to find games that are popular, but then you're trying to get licensing rights so you can advertise it. It's not like the old tournament days, like you talk about in the 90s or even the 80s, where, your store would just throw up a sign saying, "Hey, Madden tournament," or "Hey, Halo tournament," or "Hey, you know,
Yeah,
playing a little loosey goosey with copyright."
those were the good old days.
They were. I mean, you walk into a tournament, win $100, walk out the door, get your free T-shirt. Whatever you're doing. As someone who gamed in arcades back in the day.
And yeah, now it feels like there's just a lot involved. Like with esports, most teenage gamers, I think, are male. I think it's safe to say that a majority of gamers are still male, based off my personal experiences that I've had. Now, females are growing.
Oh, definitely. I think it's also depends on the game.
I was going to say, like, first-person shooters are very popular. That's what people want to play. But as high school organizations, we cannot play those.
Yeah, and boy, is that hard to explain to people.
We can talk about that in a later episode. We probably will just make that an episode about why that argument just needs to be revisited. Like,
I think what we need to do is have a strong debate and show people the pros and cons of both. And there are pros and cons, and people don't want to admit to the cons because we're gamers and we don't see them, but there are cons.
mhm.
So as long as we present it both ways, and that's part of the esports report, is what we want to do is educate. And we want to inform, and we definitely want to entertain. I'm here to make you laugh, and there are so many esports stories out there that are just crazy. And shout out to our fellow advisory council members, out there who are trying to bring some positive changes for good and for bad to esports. So we'll have some of them on for sure. We'll put them in the crosshairs. We'll have a crosshairs segment where it's like, "Hey, rapid fire questions. Here you go." But to go back to PlayVS for a minute, and being in the history of esports and GHSA, we've got some really good partners with the GHSA. Tanya, and we'll give her a shout out real quick, has done a wonderful job of keeping us informed, allowing an advisory committee, something that is not done for every sport. I don't know how many of our colleagues realize that we're kind of privileged in that sense to be able to do something like that.
It is very nice to be able to have input. Like, hey, this is what we want. This is kind of what we're seeing. This is why this doesn't work. And like you said, I don't think a lot of sports really have that opportunity.
No, as a former soccer coach, getting the edicts from the GHSA, "You shall do these things." Just, yes, mighty GHSA, we shall do these things. So.
And Play Versus, I'll say they're very smart, because currently there are 3 like official programs that do esports for high schools. There's the High School Esports League, there's Play Versus, and then there's the National Association. I always forget the name. National Association of something.
Of not being used. Let's just
Play Versus, though, was very smart because they partnered with state athletic organizations and became
the National Athletic Organization, the NFHSA, right?
Mhm.
National Federation of High Schools. They got on board with them, and they knew exactly where to go, because without their sanctioning, there was no local sanctioning going to happen.
Mhm.
And I think that's another issue that we're having today is we still have coaches and gamers out there who think, well, they've allowed this game, so we can play X game. Because my favorite question is are we going to play? Enter your favorite game name. Is that going to be esport? If you would allow enter your favorite game name, I would play. I'm going, not up to me, bro.
I do get very tired of that question. Each season when I'm getting ready to sign up, I'll have students come to me, "Well, if you played this game or this game, I would join." And it's like, I have no control over what games we play. Like, I just don't. Like,
not at all.
No.
And it's fascinating about the number of kids. If they, I mean, you know, we talk about smart, bright. Let's talk about one of the funniest moments as being an esports coach, at least for me. And let's say that that dark word, which is Fortnite. Fortnite. Oh, one of the few major bungles that we've ever had in esports, and it's no one's fault. It really isn't.
No, it's just a series of bad events.
It was a series of bad events. So it is the third. We're going into our third season, if I remember right. It's season 3, and we get a mass email sent to not just us, but to students, everybody. Everybody got this email. Admin. Fortnite is being played, and students are exploding. This is about right at the peak of the popularity of Fortnite is when we get this email. And all of a sudden, everybody, I mean, I had like 20 teams being ready to form up. I mean, my guys were going to take over and win. You know, I had nationally ranked players and world ranked players, and we were going to win Fortnite. My admin, I have to say, didn't care. They were like, go for it. You know, they were young enough to understand that, you know, games were not a bad thing, bad reps, whatever, but we were getting it.
My school was not like that.
Your school was not like that, no.
And I still have that letter. I can pull it up and show that letter that we got.
You should do it.
Yeah, you go ahead and you keep telling the folks about what happened while I find that letter.
All right. So, well, I actually pulls that up. We get this letter, and then day 2 happens. Day 2. It wasn't even 24 hours later do we get an email that says, we are not playing Fortnite. We are not. I mean, just the GHC comes down with a hammer and just destroys the Fortnite dreams of all those above us.
I found it.
And I get it. I mean, I understand. I mean, when I got the first letter, I thought, well, this has already been approved by the GHSA. Hey, why not? Let's do it. And then
it turns out it wasn't.
Not even a little bit. Like the national organization hadn't even approved it. The National Federation hadn't even approved it. So, yeah, that was a miscommunication, but it really did show that there are limits to esports and schools right now.
Well, specifically high schools, you know, college, you can kind of get away with a lot more. But I did find that letter. Well, listen, let me just read it to you. I have it pulled up.
All right, go for it.
I saved it specifically for my dissertation.
For this reason, I knew I was going to do this show in the future.
Okay, so it was sent on January 24th, 2020. That's the date.
Yep.
And the subject says esports and the addition of Fortnite. So here it goes. Dear GHSA member schools, I'm writing to inform you of a recent development in esports as well as the shared action being taken by our association and the NFHS network. It is recently brought to our attention that our esports partner PlayVersus will now be offering the game Fortnite for competitive play in schools. The GHSA has no knowledge of this addition and is strongly against it. I want to personally assure you that we, along with the NFHA network, are proactively taking steps to have this decision reversed. There is no place for shooter games in our schools. Should anybody have any questions, concerns, or need assistance, please do not hesitate to reach me directly. And this is from Dr. James R. Hines, Jr., the Executive Director of the Georgia High School Esports Association.
Yes, it was from Dr. Hines himself. And again, I understand that it's a precarious situation to be put on. After the Fortnite fiasco, and it was a fiasco, there were other games. I love this. Season 3 brought in like all the rumors of games to come. And it was supposed to be NBA 2K. And I'm jokingly blame Adrian for that. I hope Adrian watches this and, you know, shouts back at us. And it's not, he knows it's all in jest. But it was that, and I remember some other fighting game, and I can't remember. My students were it was kind of a non-Nintendo version of Smash Brothers, and there were others out there floating, and Madden was hinted about, but not nearly as strongly. But NBA 2K was the big one. I remember my kids were like 2K. It was again at the time a very popular EA game, and we're sitting there trying to figure out what all this was going to be. Some of my students, for some reason, thought Clash of Clans was coming because some of the images on the PlayVS website at the time.
My student
had those shadow wets.
I was just going to say, my students thought that Hearthstone was coming at one point, World of Warcraft, which I didn't really know. I guess the Battlegrounds.
Yeah, Battlegrounds, I guess, but I didn't see that coming. We've got a future episode. It's called The Season That Is Lost. That season of 2020, spring 2020. I still have hard feelings about that bad boy being canceled.
But yeah, the only problem I really have, and this is because I'm biased as a gamer, is that shooters have no place in schools. And again, this will be discussed more in detail in a future episode. And I think it just comes down to like a misunderstanding of FPSs. I think
Well,
that's
I think
really
it also
what
comes
it
down
is.
to a misunderstanding of the impact of FPSs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I've always found entertaining is that being from southern states like we are, not embracing shooting games, but will embrace guns. I mean, there are rivalry teams. They're shotgun teams.
Yeah. The JROTC were practicing with their guns in the hallway.
Yeah, so don't play with them in a virtual environment, but play with them online. Again, all in fun, guys, because we do understand the cons and concerns of all these things, and we're not trying to look for trouble. We're just going to have some fun with it because you got to laugh at situations. You really do, especially with esports, because as we can tell you, every game presents a new challenge. And my goodness, for this year, the changes in the number of games, we went from 2 or 3 quaint little games, a few people to.
Hold on, let's count. We have Rocket League.
Yes.
League of Legends.
Yes.
Smite's
still there.
Smite. FIFA. Madden.
All
right, so that's 5. Super Smash.
Yep.
Splatoon 2.
Maybe.
And now they've added another one, the Mario Kart. So we're up to 8 games.
And I don't see it slowing down. I mean, I really
different systems too, and that's going to be a topic for another episode more in detail. But we've got computer games, PS4s, and Switches.
And here's the thing: when we first started, it was no consoles at all. There was not going to be consoles. It was going to be PC gaming. I don't think people understand how entrenched they were. They wouldn't even allow crossplay, which at the time was happening. You could play Rocket League on a PS4 or play Rocket League on an Xbox and play against someone on a computer. They wouldn't let you do that. I almost had a disqualification because of that.
And I'll just say, and again, we're going to talk about this in a future episode, but the problem, and I think the misconception with introducing console games to public education is the school, like, I really can't convince a school to buy me Switches. I can convince them to buy me computers.
Right, because they can be used for their multi-purpose tools.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the other issue is network issues. Especially with the Switch, it's just not as well supported online as, say, a PC or even the PlayStation system or the Xbox with Microsoft. Yeah, it has better online support. The Switch is...
Nintendo's online service is notoriously a joke.
Yes.
That's why it only costs $20 a year.
Right. And as someone who, I own several Switches, and I play a lot of Switch games. I don't play a lot of it online. It's not the basis of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give them this. The games, at least, that they've introduced from Nintendo have been team-based games. Have we used them team-based wise? Future episode discussions on why certain sports are not and are esports.
Mm-hmm. But they did introduce popular games. Like Smash was very, very popular. And I think it reached a very diverse group of kids. And yes. Mario Kart will be very popular. Splatoon 2, not so much. I did have a group of kids that played it and they liked it, but it was really hard for me to convince them to play it because they're like, this is like a shooter without it being a shooter. This is a baby shooter.
That was the problem I kept running into, is that if I could get 5th graders to play, Splatoon 2 would have been all over the place. But by the time they get to high school, my group was like, I don't play Splatoon anymore. That's a baby game. And yeah. Now Smash, no. Super Smash Brothers.
Everybody loves Smash.
Everybody loves Smash. Too many people love Smash. I'm going to say that right now. The other problem is no one thinks they're bad at Smash. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Until they run into a couple of my colleagues who were my assistants who helped me out, and they were really good at Smash. That's the other problem I see with Mario Kart. Mario Kart to me, there's nothing. Again, I love it. I'm glad I had a lot of kids. But do you know one person who thinks? Well, I do. I know one person who thinks they are bad at Mario Kart.
They're all great professional esports
Right, they're the
players.
greatest racers of the ever faced because they all get Billy the Bullet and the blue shell in the background and win the race. So yeah, no one thinks they're bad at this game, and I'm really worried about that when it comes to some egos and dealing with egos. But I'm excited that it's bringing other kind of kids. I mean, I've got an all-girl squad coming up, and I'm excited for them. But I'm also worried because their commitment, it's a party game.
Yeah, and that we have a lot of things that are going to be future episodes, like starting a program, keeping kids involved, trying to recruit more females, because that's like a big problem right now. And I can tell you a lot about why that is. But again, future episodes, we're trying to keep this like nice and light and brief. But a lot of work goes into these programs. Like we're doing 8 different games, and like I'm one person for my program. Nix is too. So it's like, how do you coach 8 different games that are going on basically all at once at the same time? And the administrative, like the administrative work, I'm setting everything up. It's a lot.
Yeah, I'm on the PlayVS website all day long on a match day. I mean, it's checking in with coaches, especially Smash, with all the work it takes to get it going. And I'll give PlayVS credit. They've added a chat feature that have made it easier because they were relying on other things too much. But with esports and the role of esports in schools, I kind of want to tie us up and end it with this, is that we're still in the infancy of this. And we are already at 142, if not more, schools at this point. When you're a state champion in esports right now, you're the state champion of all of Georgia, not your division like in every other sport. But it doesn't matter if you got 200 kids in your building or if you've got 3,500 kids in your building. We're competing against each other. And that is something that hopefully is coming to an end because we are finally growing.
Yeah, and I think that's important for people to understand. Like, yeah, we've been at this since 2017, but like with any policy changes, it's very slow. And we're still like in the infancy stages of esports. Like it has a lot of potential to grow very quickly, very fast. And as coaches and people on committees, we just want to make sure that it grows in the right direction for our students. And
that's all I care about.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I care about, is that my kids have a chance at an equal playing ground. And I have concerns, and I think that's where we should end our shows. 3 concerns that we both have for the future of esports. And Ashley, why don't you give us some concerns?
The major thing I'm concerned with right now is predatory behavior that I've seen with recruiters. And I use recruiters lightly. I'll get emails from companies and things about, hey, we're offering scholarships or colleges. And it's like,
are you really?
Yeah. Like, are you really interested in my kids, or are you just trying to make money off of them? So that's a major concern that I have. I'm also concerned about the lack of regulation in the high school, the amateur and professional. Like professional esports, that kind of sets the standards for everybody else. And even now, it's still like
it's still wild, wild west.
Yep. Very exploitative, exploitative.
We're good.
That word.
It's that X word. It's X-rated.
That word to like professional players. Like I can cite tons of research articles on professional players who signed contracts who later got, messed over and things like that. So that's a major concern. And then my third concern would be consoles in high school esports. Like I'm excited that we've expanded our games, but I'm also very worried because consoles usually only last 4 to 5 years. So once this current console cycle is over, what am I going to do? Because I don't know if I'm going to have the funds to like jump on the next thing, which will also be for another episode, is how to fund your program.
Yes. That definitely fundraising is going to be one of our, that leads to my number one concern, which is what I call aging out of games. I've always said, I think we're at the end of League of Legends. If not, we weren't almost at the end 5 years ago. If I could have started this team in 2010, 2011, my groups would have been good, but now it's such a niche market for League of Legends. And I hope they get a boom back. I hope they attract new gamers, but I'm not seeing it on my end. I'm not seeing it in my community. That's one of mine, and I see this with other games like Rocket League, and they just gamers. We don't stay loyal to one game forever. We switch when the new cool thing is out. And so even with something like Rocket League, it's only around 5 years old. You give it 2 or 3 more years. Are we going to have to go to Rocket League 2? And how do you keep that consistency and call it esports? Because it's not, I mean, are they just going to have to slowly take out games and add games? And, that's what I see is that's a major issue, because once I build up a program, it's now you got to get ready for the next game, and it just pushes kids out the door. So that's my first one. My second one is expenses. We're a non-revenue sport. We do not generate revenue ourselves. And I have issues with having to pay fees to play when the games are not provided. Some of the models that have changed, that's my other issue, is that, again, making money off my kids. And third of all is making sure that we keep a fair and competitive game environment, because I've seen schools where they no longer do esports because they just got blown off the map by some of the bigger teams. And as one of the big teams on the block out there for Rocket League, I understand. I mean, when you're getting destroyed, actually 25-1 25-1 with my Rocket League squad, you may not want to play anymore.
Now, for our viewers who don't know that whole backstory, I did have a Rocket League team, and they thought they were awesome, and they thought they were the best. And then they played Nick's Rocket League team, and his team wiped the floor with mine 25-0, and then they didn't want to play anymore. So that's also another episode for like future
things not to do as
well, just to talk about how gamers.
We need a mercy rule. Let's just go ahead and say it. We need a mercy rule. If you're up to,
I was just going to say how they react to losing. Like, that's a big problem, which causes a lot of aggression. And just like, any other sport, you got to teach your kids how to gracefully lose, even if it's a shutout match.
Well,
it was.
Well, okay. The other problem is that it's a competitive imbalance, because we shouldn't have been playing each other. And not if it was League of Legends, you'd have wiped the floor with my team. It just depends on, every school has what they're going to be good at. Unless you're Forsyth County. We'll get those shots in later. Guys over in Forsyth, you're going to be the butt of jokes because you're great. No, there's no knocking it. But we're going to make the joke, so play along.
And we'll also have you on at some point.
We want you on, guys.
Yeah,
because yes, we want all the esports coaches on here at different times. We're going to throw it out during our next advisory council meeting, which is soon. Throw out a link and get some coaches out here to have some fun and have some laughs at it.
And so that you, the viewer, can get like a real understanding of how different programs encounter different problems. Location matters, the size of the school matters, funding matters. And we'll cover all of this in future episodes of the Esports Report. And I guess I would like to end with asking our viewers, if you have any questions or, comments or, ideas that you want us to talk about, feel free to email us. I'll stick the email in the description of this video below.
You'll find us on YouTube. You're going to find us on Facebook. You're going to find us on Instagram. You're going to find us. And it's at the Esports Report or at the Esports Reports, depending on if you're on Facebook or Instagram. And again, all this will be in our description. Please find us. Please message us. And our website will be up before you know it. And we're going to have all this going. We want to see how much you want out of us, because we are designing our show for you.
Because again, our main goal is just to, make people aware and try to improve esports. Like, we want parents, we want coaches, admin, just fans of esports. We just want to help this grow in a great, fundamental, safe way for the students and the high schools that are involved.
And also make sure that we kind of give coverage to things that people may not know about. How many people know that there's a League of Legends World Series? How many people know that there's a Rocket League Championship Series? And so many levels below that, and opportunities for jobs and editing, and not just playing the sport, but being involved in the background. There's just so many opportunities, not only for students, but some of our adults who may be listening.
Yeah. So we hope that you guys enjoyed episode 1. And I guess this is Ashley Hodge signing off with Nix over here.
Hey guys, this is the Esports Report signing off saying